Today to our April 28th, 2017 Google User Group meeting. My name's Eric Curts. I am a technology integration specialist here at Spark. Spark is a information technology center up in Northeast Ohio where we serve about 30 school districts. But these meetings are open to anyone. These meetings sort of cover a couple of different groups. On one hand, they do represent Spark and the schools that we support here, but these meetings are also part of the Google Educator Group of Ohio, or GEG Ohio. But at the same time, anybody is more than welcome to join us for these meetings, either watching live or watching the recording later on. We're happy to have you here with us today. The purpose of these meetings is once a month we go over all of the new things that Google has rolled out in the last month, as well as answer any questions if people do have any questions, and also just share some neat ideas for how to use Google tools in your classroom. As a quick reminder to anybody who has just joined us, you're going to want to get to this Google document so that you can access all of the resources we're going to be talking about here today. Those can be found, again, this document can be found at google.apps.spark.org/user group. That'll take you to this web page, and from this web page, if you just scroll on down to the April meeting, you will see the link to the Google Doc for the agenda today, as well as the YouTube link. Now, as far as what's in the agenda, just as a very quick intro here, we'll skip through some of this stuff pretty quick, but just want to highlight a few things for you. I'm already introduced myself, so hi, I'm Eric. Below there are some helpful links to some resources, but the one I want to draw your attention to is the sign-in form. When you get a chance, if you would, please go ahead and click on this link under important links for the Google User Group sign-in form. This will take you out to a very simple Google form where you can fill in your information to indicate the date of the meeting and whether you're attending here in person or if you're viewing this online. And even if you watch it recorded later, that's okay. That still counts. The reason that we do collect this information is that Google does ask that I turn in numbers to indicate how many people participated in each of our user group meetings. I do not share any of your personal information, just the quantity. I do, though, collect your name and email so that I can send you a certificate of attendance, because some folks do like to turn those into their schools to get some hours for meetings like this. So when you get a chance, if you would, please go ahead and click on that link to fill out that sign-in form, and that is much appreciated. Below that, real quick, updates on our user counts. We do have a Google community page for both the Spark Google User Group and for GEG Ohio. If you have not plugged into those yet, I definitely encourage you to do so. The links are here. Here's the one for the Spark Google User Group, and here's the one for GEG Ohio. I'll go ahead and open up the GEG Ohio link. This is a Google Plus community. And the idea behind this is a great way to stay connected in between our monthly user group meetings. You can come here and you can post if you've got a question or a comment or a resource that you want to share, or you can just read what other people have shared. Lots of folks post on here sharing new resources or blog posts or ideas or upcoming opportunities to plug into trainings or webinars. So this is just a great way to connect with other educators in and around Ohio related to the use of Google Apps. Those links are in the agenda there, so you can connect with those communities. At the moment, we have just under 1,000 folks in our Spark group and a little bit over 2,000 educators in our GEG Ohio group. Next up on the agenda, we have some upcoming events. Now, there's quite a lot of stuff on the horizon here as we're heading into summer. Actually, summer you might think is a good time to take a break, but actually summer becomes kind of busy, actually, with all because schools are out and it's a good time for professional development. So just a heads up, a couple of these will be more Ohio centered. So if you're not an Ohio person, this may not apply as much to you, but I do want to mention that here at Spark, we do have some certification boot camps coming up. There are lots of great certification boot camps all around the state of Ohio, but I'm going to quickly highlight that we do have some coming up here at Spark, which is in Canton, Ohio, so Northeast Ohio. We'll be doing level 1 and level 2 boot camps, and we have a couple of dates in May and a couple of dates in July for those. Those are 2-day boot camps. If you'd like more information or to sign up for those, you can follow the link there on our boot camps. And then there's a bunch of conferences. This one, unless you're watching this live, this one may have already happened. So coming up on Monday and Tuesday, just right around the corner here, is the iTip Ohio Summit featuring Google for Education. That is up in Kalahari. Which is up in Sandusky. So that is coming up. I will be presenting at that, as well as I'm sure many other folks here will be participating in that as well. In June, we have a couple of conferences to draw your attention to. The Create Conference, which is up in the Toledo area. And then in the Avon Lake area, which is, again, just a little bit west of Cleveland, we have the Cleveland Area Google Summit that's put on by the EdTech team. And that is now open to register for that. That's a 2-day Google Summit. Another one that is close to home is our own Spark EdTech conference. We do this every year, first Friday in August. It's a great way to kick off the start to your school year. Here's the link to our conference site for that. And the call for presenters is open. So if you would like to share something here at our August 4th conference, we're going to try to wrap up that call for presenters in about a week. So I think May 5th is the deadline we have right now for when we'd like to have those. So there's still time for you to submit a proposal for our Spark EdTech conference. And if there's any others that I've missed here, again, this is an editable document. Please feel free to go ahead and just type in here and add if there's a conference in your neck of the woods that I was not aware of, any sort of upcoming Google events that would be helpful for people. Please do include those in there, and I'll make sure that those get listed on the website as well. All right. Well, that gets us through all the introductory things. For the rest of the time, we usually take a little bit of time to look at what is new in Google. So what are the new things that Google has rolled out over the last month? There's a pretty big list always. We will not go through all of these. I'll just kind of pick a few that I think are some of the most critical ones that have jumped out to me. Below there's a section called Q&A. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to do exactly what you're seeing here. Just go ahead and type in your questions. If I've got an answer, I'll happily provide that. If not, hopefully somebody else who is watching the live stream will jump in and type in an answer to help out with that. And then the final section is show and tell. This is basically where we share just neat ways to use Google tools in your school. And so these are things that I've come across, either things I put on my blog post, on my blog recently, or other really neat posts that other people have shared or podcasts. If you guys have a neat idea, please just scroll on down to that section and type that in. Would love to hear the creative things you are doing in your schools. So again, feel free to type in any of those sections. And I'm going to go ahead and scroll back up, though, to the what's new in G Suite for Education. All right, so the last time we had a meeting, it wasn't quite the tail end of March. It was, I think, March 24th or 25th or so. So a couple of things snuck in after that. And so one of them was at the very tail end of March that Google Docs got a very simple, small update, but hey, it's still an update. It's still kind of cool. And that is Google Docs now has an option to convert text to caps, lowercase, or title case. This is something that we didn't used to have, that if you wanted to come in and highlight some text, you said, oh, I want to make this, well, I'll do this one up here. If I wanted to say, I want to make that text all uppercase, there was no easy way to do that. I mean, obviously you could retype it, and there were add-ons you could use for that. And actually, I'm sure at some point I've mentioned some of these. If you go into add-ons, I think it was DocuTools. Yes, DocuTools had an option to go in and do some, fancy-dancy stuff like changing your, there it is, all uppercase and lowercase and so forth. But you had to do that with an add-on. Well, not anymore. Now, if you go ahead and highlight any text, you can just go to the Format menu, and capitalization is now included right there in the Google Docs Format menu. You can go to lowercase, uppercase, or title case. So if I said, oh, let's make that all uppercase, boom, there it is. Again, not a major, big thing, but hey, it's still pretty cool. Let me go back over to my capitalization here. And let's see, we'll go back to title case. There we go. But it's still a neat feature to have, since that is something that is very common in word processors and something that I think people felt was missing from Google Docs. So that's cool. we'll take it. All right. And again, I'm not going to go through every one of these here. We're just going to highlight some of the ones that are probably the most important. Next thing up, maybe not terribly important, but it's fun. And so that counts. Every year, come April 1st, Google rolls out their April Fool's videos and posts and so forth. A website called 9to5google.com did collect all of those together in one place. So if you'd like to see all of the neat April Fool's announcements from Google this year, you can follow that link. You'll see that they had a lot of pretty neat things, including the ability to play Ms. Pac-Man in Google Maps, and some great videos like a twist on Google Home. They had Google Gnome instead of Google Home. And if we go on down, you'll see there's some other ones. They had a great one on Google Wind, haptic helpers, their Chromebook accessories. That was excellent. So a selfie stick. Since now Chromebooks can do Android apps, they had, fake accessories for your Chromebook. And of course, Google Play for Pets. That one was very cute. Now, you may say, okay, Eric, that's fun. And it is. I mean, but why, what could we do with these sort of things other than just get a good chuckle out of them? Well, I think a lot of times these can be used in a couple of ways. One is, if you are a trainer, if you're part of your job at your school is to provide training to your staff, these can really help break up a training with some fun. So if you're doing a training that deals with Gmail or Docs or something like that, you can find an appropriate corresponding Google April Fool's video to throw in there. And so I do that a lot of times, especially if it's like a day-long training and it's a real long training, and just kind of helps break things up. Another fun use of these, though, is to just talk to students about how do you know what's real? There's so many things on the internet, and Google does a really good job with these videos. They seem really professional. And so to throw some of these out there and see, can the students identify which ones are fake, versus what are some real products? And that would be a good way to kind of talk about figuring out fake news versus what is real. Now, that's a link to just the videos and the resources from this year. If you're curious, further down in the document, way down in the show and tell section, I did do a recent blog post where I pulled together some of my favorite April Fool's videos that they've done for like years and years and years. So if you go down further to that section, give a click on that link down in the show and tell section where it says best April Fool's videos. I don't remember how many it's up to now, but it's over 20. I know I had said 20 originally, but I think I've even added more to it since this post came out. But these are YouTube videos that Google has put out on, Gmail, and then you've got Inbox and auto completing and Google Knows for search, Chrome multitask, on and on down the line. So well over 20 of these from many years back. So if you're looking for an appropriate video to connect to a topic that you're doing training on, this may help you find them just all in one place. All right, let's head back up to the news though. Let's see. Again, we'll skip through some of these and just focus on some of the real key ones. The next one I'm going to highlight. Again, if you guys do have questions on any of these I'm skipping over, please let me know. Just throw a comment in the side or type something in there if you do want to dive into one of these. But the next one I'm going to take a quick look at is Google's AutoDraw. Now, this is a pretty cool experiment that Google has put out there that is using artificial intelligence to help you create, share, and download images. So let me go ahead and fire it up here. It's just autodraw.com. And basically, at first, it looks like a pretty normal drawing tool. You can come in here and you can just, draw pictures, and there's a button down here that lets you put in, text or fill with colors or put in different shapes and so forth. So at first you may say, okay, just looks like a regular old doodling tool, which to a degree it certainly could be. What makes it different though is one of these buttons down here is the auto draw button. Now the auto draw button, what it does is it lets you draw, and then Google's artificial intelligence tries to figure out what it is you're drawing, and then it will suggest to you possible matches. So let's say I wanted to try to draw a dog. So, say I'm not necessarily a great, artist. So I start drawing the dog body, and I start putting in some dog legs here, and I'll make it very stick figure-y so you can kind of get the idea. And then we'll give him a dog head up here, and we'll give him an ear and we'll give them a tail here. Well, as I'm doing that, you're seeing across the top, all of these suggestions are starting to show up. And so I'm, doing my doodle here, and then I can come up and say, Google's thinking, did I mean a horse or did I mean a dog or a different type of dog, or, maybe even a cat? And so you basically can do your doodle, and then after doing that, you can click on the shapes up here and it will replace your doodle with an actual piece of clip art. So what could that be used for? Oh, and by the way, you can, of course, keep drawing more and add more things and go, fill things in with different colors and so forth. Well, I mean, a lot of possibilities here. If you want to scroll down a little bit further, I did do a blog post on using Google AutoDraw where I showed a couple of examples and ideas of how you might want to use this in school. So if you go down to the show and tell section and you go to using Google AutoDraw, I do have a recent blog post where I was playing around with this. And let me zoom in just a little bit to make that a little bit larger so you can see a little bit better. I talked about how it works and so forth, but then sort of started talking about, well, what could we use this for? What would be some things that it could be helpful for? And I think on one hand, it's great for folks that are artistically challenged. I mean, things like sketchnoting, it's so popular where you'll go to a conference, you'll sit in on a training session, and people are being encouraged to sketchnote, to doodle and draw their notes. And sometimes people feel a little intimidated by that. It's like, I'm not a very good doodler. Things I draw don't look anything like they're supposed to. Well, this would be a neat way to be able to do a sketch note and have more professional looking pieces of clip art put in place of what you doodled in there. And so, for example, I did a quick sketch note here. There's some, research out there that talks about, how much do we remember? 10% of what we read, 20% of what we hear, and then all the way around up to 90% of what we say and do. And in this case, all I did was I went into AutoDraw and I sort of sketched out a book or an ear or an eye, and I let it replace my doodle with the better clip art. And then I just, use the fill tool to color it in. So it could be helpful for folks who maybe don't feel like they're all that great at drawing to have a little bit more confidence in being able to take a stab at sketchnoting. Also did a quick infographic. So here's one on the water cycle. And then I just did a creative drawing. So again, this could also be good for younger children, just to creatively draw, to be able to start doodling some things and then replace them with the clip art and then fill them in as they go from there. Now, it's definitely not a perfect tool. It's more of an experiment. And I think, that's sort of the idea that Google is trying this out. So you can only have one auto drawing at a time. And if you want to start over, you got to wipe it clean and then start up a new one. Although you can come up here to the menu and you can download what you've created or share it with others. But this is not a robust drawing program. But it's a neat twist on that throws in some tools that I hope maybe will just kind of get integrated into other Google tools. Maybe we'll start seeing more of these machine learning, artificial intelligence ideas when we're in Google Docs or Google Drawings. Maybe, we can start doodling and they'll just kind of, incorporate this into those other tools. So have fun with it for now and see what ideas you might come up with on how you would use that. So that was AutoDraw from Google. All right, let's head back up to what's new in G Suite. Next up, we had a lot of interesting things related to maps and Google Earth come out. And that makes sense because Earth Day occurred during the month of April. And so I think it's timely that a lot of these things came to the forefront. For example, Google Street View added a bunch of neat locations from California state parks, so that's awesome. But the thing that really caught my attention on all these mapping tools here, was a launch of a new version of Google Earth. Now, for those of you that maybe have never used Google Earth in the past, just real quick, it was originally a program called Keyhole, and Google bought Keyhole. They do that with a lot of products. They'll purchase a product and then they'll incorporate it in. So many, many years ago, there was this great product called Keyhole, and basically it was a 3D version of the Earth, and it was for mapping and so forth. Google bought it and turned it into Google Earth. And so for many, many years, Google Earth has been around, but it was not a web-based program. Google Earth had to be installed on your computer. It was a pretty beefy program, so you needed to have a Mac or a PC to run it, and you had to install it locally on your machine. But oh my gosh, it was so neat. It was this full 3D model of planet Earth, and you could zoom in on your house or fly through the Grand Canyon or go look at the Eiffel Tower or Mount Everest or whatever. Really, really neat product. Unfortunately, as more and more schools have moved toward Chromebooks, that's something they couldn't use because Google Earth had to be installed locally on your machine, and Chromebooks don't work that way. You can't install something like a Windows program on a Chromebook. So there was workarounds and stuff, but nothing really quite ever did it. Well, thankfully, on April 18th, Google announced that they were launching a new version of Google Earth that would run in your browser. So basically, you can just head out to earth.google.com. So let me go ahead and head on over there, earth.google.com. And when you get there, you can just click the Launch Google Earth button. It may take it a moment to load because it is loading quite a lot of information there. And what it is sort of I don't want to say a light version of Google Earth. I mean, it really is very, very nice. It is missing a few features. There are some things that the standalone installable version of Google Earth does that's a little bit different. But honestly, for the most part, all the features that you really are expecting are there. So here's the general gist of how it works. So basically, boom, there you go. You've got planet Earth. Now over here on the left, you can use any of these buttons. For example, there's a search button. I could come up here and say I wanted to search. We'll just search for the Spark offices here, 2100 38th Street, Northwest, Canton, Ohio, and there we go. All right, so let's go ahead and visit Spark. So, and at this point, it's going to zoom all the way in, and there we go. There's the Spark offices, and you'll notice that I can, do a lot of stuff here. Down in the bottom right, I can switch between a 2D view, which is basically just looking down on it from above, or a 3D view that puts everything at an angle and allows me to look at it from an angle. I can also zoom in, get closer to it, zoom out. I'll zoom in and do the 3D again, and now you can see we're a lot closer to it. My car's probably parked here somewhere. I'd have to take a look and see. But so anyway, though, this is, this is being created a number of ways. What Google has done is they've taken satellite imagery, they've taken street view imagery by having their cars drive up and down the roads, and then they've also used airplanes, and they have flown in a grid pattern over pretty much the whole world, filming in front, behind, right, left, and down. So they took all the airplane photographs, they took all of the street view photographs and all of the satellite photographs, and they put them all together, and basically it creates, like we can see here, a 3D model of the world. Even the trees and everything have been, 3D-ified in that. Now, if you want, you can also grab little Pegman down here in the bottom right if you want to see street view. Now, there's not always street view available, but for streets where they have driven up and down the road, if you drop Pegman in there, it'll switch you into street view mode. And once you're in street view mode, you can now move around. There's my office right there. Yep. And then when you're done, you can just exit out of street view mode. We'll just click on Pegman again to exit back out of it. Okay, so on one hand, you can search for any location that you're looking for. There's also a button called Voyager. This basically has pre-made tours where Google or somebody has gone through and put together things for the Grand Canyon, or let me see, what else do we have? Natural treasures. We've got wonders of the ancient and modern world. And they're organized by travel and by nature and by culture and by history. And so these have already been, selected different locations around the world that you can visit. In addition to that, there is the I'm feeling lucky button, which is just looks like a dice over here, or a die. Click on that, and it will just randomly take you anywhere in the world and just drop you in there. And on the right-hand side, usually there'll be a pop-up card with some information about the location. Of course, you can still zoom in and zoom out, hit the dice again, and flip over to another location somewhere in the world. Fantastic. So basically, you now have the entire planet Earth at your disposal. And there's so many neat things you can do with it. So if it is a social studies class, certainly you can visit the locations you're studying about, whether it be in a different country, whether it be something from American history. Really bring that to life. If it's science, whether it be volcanoes or biomes, landforms, so many things you can see up front and personal. If it's language arts, one of the neat things that we've done a lot of times with Google Earth in the past is create what we call lit trips, where you take a book that happens to take place here on Earth, so not necessarily a fantasy book, but a book that is grounded here in the real world, and then you'll go through and find on the map different locations that correspond to where the book took place. And then you can add in information about what was happening in that chapter and links and so forth. Those are called lit trips. And that's a really neat way to use Google Earth. The nice thing is they do work with the new version. Now, it's not perfect. Sometimes things were sort of optimized for the old version of Google Earth. So there's a couple of things that get a little bit wonky every now and then. But I did do a blog post on this. So if you are back in our agenda, and if you actually go back down to the show and tell section, I did a blog post on lit trips on Chromebooks with the new Google Earth. And this blog post will talk you through the idea of, if you want to do a lit trip, how that works in the new Google Earth. So there's a little video that explains it all there. So if you want more details, check that out. But basically it involves going to the Google Lit Trips website. And from there, you can look at all of their different books. They've got K through 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 12, where you can see the whole list of them. And these are basically books that somebody has taken the time to map out. They've found each of these different locations, and they have created a tour that would, cover these different locations in the book. So what you do is you then come here and you say you want to go to the Google Lit Trip store, where you basically put in your email address. You do have to register, but it's free. Put in your email address and then pick the lit trip you want, and then it basically downloads it. Now, here's the thing. You can download it to your drive, which is fine, or you can download it to your local memory. That's fine too, to your local hard drive. But when it's time to go use it in the new Google Earth, there's one little thing you gotta tweak. And okay, I'll show you how that works. So if I go back over to Google Earth, over here on the left-hand side, there is a little button that says My Places. That's where you can go to open what's called KML or KMZ files. Remember I told you Google Earth used to be called Keyhole before, when Google bought it? Well, that's where this comes from. It's Keyhole Markup Language, or Keyhole Markup zipped. So it's a zipped version of it, but it's Keyhole. That's where that comes from. Now, the thing is, you have to turn on one quick little setting here to allow you to open up these KML or KMZ files. So from the Google Lit Trip site, that's what's going to download the KMZ or KML file. But here we do have to go down to the settings. In My Places, go down to settings, and near the bottom it says, do you want to enable KML import? You do have to turn that on. So it's a switch you got to flip and hit save, and then suddenly, oh yay, now I can import KML files. So at that point I could come here and say I want to import a file, and I've downloaded a whole bunch of them. Let's see if I can find Here we go. Esperanza Rising was one I downloaded. It was a book that my 6th grade son read in school this year, so it kind of caught my eye. I can now open up that lit trip, and what it's going to do is load that up, and you'll see that what it's done is down the left-hand side, all of these different entries are different chapters or sections of the book. And if I come in here and if I give a double click on any of these, it will actually zoom me in to the real location on planet Earth where that would have taken place. And then there's also a little button here. Looks like it's a letter I. If you click on that, that's an information button, and that'll bring up a pop-up where whoever has built the lit trip has added some information. So it's some additional links. It can be pictures, it can be videos, things to supplement it. So not only can you read the book and then actually visit the locations, but there's all these great supplemental materials that go along with it. So so many neat things you can do with Google Earth. And now that it's available on the web, that opens it up to Chromebook. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the creative ideas people come up with for really taking advantage of Google Earth now that we have it available. All right, good stuff there. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll close out of Google Earth. Close out of a couple of these tabs. Don't need all of these open here right now. And back to here. All right. And let's see if that gets us back where we need to be. All right, so let's see, what else do we want to talk about with new stuff? Not a real big thing, but anytime Google Sites gets a new update, it's always good to see. We do have our new Google Sites, and they've added the ability now to add what they're calling logos and matching theme colors. Now, let me see if I can show this to you. I think I've got it queued up on another window here. I'll drag it over so you guys can see. So here is a sample Google site. This is just a little demo I just threw together real quick just to show as an example. What they mean by this new feature, they're saying you can now add logos and then have the theme colors in your site match them. Again, it's not a major, giant, big update, but for what it's worth, the idea is you can now, in a Google site, hover above here in the top left, and you'll see you get this Add Logo option. If you give a click on that, it basically allows you to either select or upload a logo. So if I say I want to upload a logo, actually, I'll just select one. Probably I'll go to my, my Google albums here. My photo albums. Let's just go in and grab, I think I've got a folder of Google logos. So let's just say I'm going to use the Google logo here as my logo. What's going to happen when you select that is it's going to now put that logo in the very top left-hand corner of the site. And it's going to let you decide whether you want white behind it, or if you want black behind it, or if you want it transparent, just have it sitting on top of whatever is normally in the background. And then instead of having to use the colors that are normally part of your theme, instead, you can now pick a color that it grabs from the logo and say, you know what, I didn't really care for any of the colors I had as part of my normal theme, but since I just uploaded the logo for our school or organization, and what Google does is it kind of scans the logo and pulls out the colors, you can say, I like that green, I'm going to go with green. And now it's going to update my site to match my logo, or I like the yellow, or I like the red, or whatever color it is from there that you want to grab out of that logo. Now, it's not going to make a giant big logo, it just puts it up here in the top corner. So if we go to preview our site, you'll see it just puts it up here in the top corner. So that's where your logo will end up going. Again, there's a lot of features that we still are waiting to come to the new Google sites. Those of us who have used classic sites for many years, we know there's a lot of things that have not yet made it over to the new sites. But little by little, we're seeing some of these features come over. And so just wanted to keep everybody in the loop that was another that is now available. All right, again, we'll skip down through a few of these and see what else we wanted to draw attention to. Near the bottom of the new updates, is a quick update on Google Classroom. Now, this isn't new news. This is something we found out about last month, but it has fully rolled out now. So it's worth taking a pause to mention. So Google Classroom, since its inception a couple of years ago, has always been an education-specific tool. It was just for Google for EDU users. Google decided they were going to open up Google Classroom to non-education accounts. So just a regular old Gmail account would be able to use Classroom. So that started rolling out about a month ago. Now, full access has been made available. So if you're just using a regular old Gmail account, so let me grab my regular account here. Oh, let's see. I've got too many windows open here. Let me see if I can find. Here we go. I'll grab my regular account here. Here we go. So here's my regular account. So if I come over to my regular Gmail account, this is just my erickurtz@gmail.com account. And if I go to Classroom from my regular erickurtz@gmail.com account, I now can go up to the little plus button and I can join classes, but I can also create classes. So I can go in and I can create my own classes, even though I'm just using a personal account. So this opens up a lot of neat possibilities. You know, if you want to use the features of Google Classroom, but maybe you're not at a school that currently is using Google Apps for Education, and you would like to have this ability, you can now do it with your personal account. Could be for adult ed, could be for your own trainings that you do, or it could be just to learn how Classroom works and show it as a proof of concept to your school about one of the neat things you can do with Google Apps, or G Suite as it's now called. So again, this really does open up a lot of possibilities, though, either for creating classes, but also joining classes. So it'd be easier for people to join a Google Classroom. They no longer have to have a actual Google for Education account. All right, and again, there's a few more little bits and pieces throughout here. Definitely feel free, if something in here catches your eye, follow the links to investigate some of those articles a little bit deeper. Those were the main things that really jumped out at me. If anybody watching though now has something that I missed, if you're aware of a news article from this last month that I did not include, please feel free to include it. Or if you guys have a question or a comment on any of these, please feel free to highlight and throw a comment in the side and let me know if you've got a question, or if you would like us to visit one of these that I did not take the time to go into a little bit deeper. All right, so that's what's new over this last month. I will scroll back up and take a look later and see if anybody else has added anything. Let's go ahead and move on down to the Q&A section. So we do have one question, it looks like, has come in. It says, I have a staff member that took the Google Certified Educator Level 1 exam in March and passed. They received a 2-year certificate. I have heard that the exam now gives a 3-year certificate. Is there anything they can do to get the extra year? Well, I'm going to tell you right away, I am not aware of that change. So I did not know if that is the case. Let's take a quick look. Let's poke a stick at it and see really quick. So let's go and we'll just search for Google certification, because they have an FAQ page on there that I think will definitely help us. So let's go to the Google certification site. And let's go down to the C certification FAQ page. So if you come here, here's Educator Level 1, Educator Level 2, Certified Trainer, and Certified Innovator. I can't guarantee if there's a change it would have updated yet on the FAQ, but let's at least check it. So we'll go there. Let's go to the FAQ page, and we should have in here some information on how long these are good for. So here's Educator Level 1 and 2, and let's see. How long are the certifications valid for? Now, it may be a little hard to see. I'm going to zoom in. I know this is a really small print on their site there. As of this moment, Google's FAQ page says both certifications for levels 1 and 2 are valid for 24 months. So if there has been a change, I'm not aware of it, and at the moment at least, Google's certification page is not indicating a change. It is still mentioning it as a 24-month length on that. Now, if anybody knows something different, please let me know. If you're aware of something different, throw that in, type that in, or add a comment on that. But to the best of my knowledge, it is still a 2-year certificate. I mean, the idea is well, Google's a moving target. So many things change, which is kind of the point of these monthly meetings. Think about everything new we just talked about and multiply that by 24 months. In the period of 2 years, so many things change with G Suite that, Google does want you to take that test again to prove that you have stayed up to date on all of the new things and that you are comfortable with using their tools, 2 years after you've passed that test. So, but again, if anybody knows anything different, definitely let me know. If you guys have any other questions, please do feel free to throw them into the Q&A. We appreciate that. And if I've got an answer, I'll help. If not, hopefully somebody else can. All right, let's scroll on down to the show and tell section and see what we have here. Now, in show and tell, again, please realize this is all editable. So if you have something you want to add to this, please do. Okay, you can just go to the bottom and just, throw in another bullet here and just type in your own suggestions here at the bottom. Love to get resources from other people. So the first section in show and tell, these are some of the recent things I've put on my Control-Alt-Achieve blog. Now, we've already hit several of these, so I'm not going to go through those again. But in the last month, I did have the blog post about the April Fool's video. We've seen that. Another one that I put up since the last time we had a Google user group meeting was on a new Chrome extension called Equatio. And Equatio is sort of like the sequel to the new version of GMath. So if you're familiar with using GMath for adding mathematical equations and expressions to a Google Doc or a Google form, GMath was purchased by TextHelp, who make read and write for Google, and they've now released an extension called Equatio. And I do have a blog post here that talks through all about Equatio and how it works. It is an extension now, not an add-on, and there's a free version and a paid version. So if you're used to like how TextHelp does a lot of their stuff with like read and write, same kind of idea. There's a free version and then there's a paid version. The paid version has more features to it than the free version. In the case of Equatio, the free features work in Google Docs, whereas the paid version gives you a couple more bells and whistles, and it also extends to Google Forms. Now, having said that, they're not getting rid of GMath. So if you're still a GMath user, that's okay. That's perfectly fine. They're not getting rid of GMath. My understanding would be, though, new development would be going into Equatio rather than going into GMath. But basically, it is an extension that you install, and when you do, it gives you a toolbar at the bottom of your page, and you can use that to enter math in a bunch of ways. So you can do things such as using the word prediction, shall we say, where if you just start typing in and you type in something like EX for, exponent, or SQ for squared, it'll pop up like PL for plus, as you can see in my example here. As you start typing in, it will suggest, oh, do you mean exponent or square root or whatever, and it will insert those for you. So it's got like mathematical word prediction. That's kind of cool. Also works for science formulas. So if you start typing in like hydrogen something or other, like you can see in this example, it will run a match to find all of the possible chemical compounds that match that, and then it will throw that in for you with the subscripts. If you want to use handwriting, it also supports handwriting recognition. That's one of the tools. You'll see at the bottom, there's all these different tools. Handwriting is one, so you can handwrite, and as you do, it'll try to match it. It's not always perfect. Well, of course, it probably depends on how well you well you write. Probably a lot easier if you have like a tab or like a Chromebook that's a touch screen. I was using my mouse when I did these recordings here, so I was writing really slow to try to write better. But again, it'll match what you've done, and if it makes mistakes, you can come over here and you can fix the mistake as well. So it does handwriting as well, and even does speech input. So you can just talk to it and say, 2x plus 5 or something like that. And again, it's going to hear what you say, and it will create that for you. And then every time you just basically then click the button to insert that into your document, and boom, it takes whatever math has been created or chemical formula and it drops it into your document. It also works in Google Forms, which is what's really cool, is that in the past, if you were to use GMath in Forms, it worked, but this is just really, really slick. It's real easy. Basically, there's just an Equatio button in Forms, and you simply click on the Equatio button, and it brings up the toolbar, and you can use all the same tools you just saw up here. You can then use in Google Forms to create mathematical expressions for your answers. But where it really gets cool is for when the students go to submit their answers. So if this is a form that students are actually filling out, they can click the Equatio button. Again, if they have the extension, they can click the Equatio button, and the student can use any of the tools here to make up a mathematical expression that gets inserted as an answer to your question. So if you're trying to give a math quiz where the responses need exponents or square roots or who knows what, the student can now do that with Equatio and actually submit that mathematical expression as their answer. Now, again, don't forget, this is a free and paid thing. So some of these features I'm showing you here are part of the paid version, where other features here are free. The thing is, it's pretty snazzy though, and if it's something that your district is really looking for a solution on, that definitely worth taking a look at and taking that for a spin. So that was one of the recent blog posts that I had out there, was on Equatio. I did another blog post. This one's not anything too crazy here, but it was about a cool add-on I came across. I don't know how many people we're concerned about this anyway, but non-printing characters. Now, this is something I've actually been bothered by with Docs. I love Docs. But one thing I really missed from Microsoft Word was the ability to show what I call non-printing characters. I guess that's what you call them. The idea is that when you are typing up a document, in Microsoft Word, there was that little button you could click that would show you all of your spaces and your tabs and your paragraph breaks. And why that was nice was because sometimes if you're typing up a document and things just aren't lining up right, they're kind of goofy and they're not, it's like, well, I don't understand what's wrong. Well, if you turn on non-printing characters, like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I had 8 tabs in a row there, or, oh, there were 10 spaces there I didn't even realize were there, and then you can kind of clean it up. Well, Docs doesn't do that, but came across a pretty cool add-on. It's just called Show. I mean, it's not the most creative title. It's just called Show. That's the name of the add-on. But if you install the Show add-on, it gives you the ability to go into that add-on and show spaces, tabs, page breaks, line breaks, and basically this is what you'll get. If this is your Google Doc, it'll put in little dots for your spaces, and it'll show your line breaks, it'll put in your little arrows for your tabs, and then you can go back into the add-on and tell it to turn that back off again. So if you were missing that, if you were one of us nerds who really liked that feature in Microsoft Word and you were missing it, you can check that add-on out. It may be something that meets your needs. And so that is linked in here as well. Oh, Katie has a comment. Text Help said, if you also have read and write will read Equatio equations to students in the text-to-speech function. Thank you, Katie. I did not realize that Read and Write's toolbar would work so nicely with Equatio. It makes perfect sense, same company. So the Read and Write will actually read the Equatio equations aloud to students with the text-to-speech function. Very, very nice. Love it. The next thing I will take a moment to mention was a pretty fun thing for me anyway. I had a fun time doing this blog post. It was stop motion animation with Google Slides. We're always looking for creative ways to use Google tools. Again, that's it. They're just tools, okay? Please don't think, oh, Google Slides, it's a slideshow program, it's just for presentations, or Google Docs, it's just a word processor, or Google Sheets, it's just for numbers. They're tools, and you can do tons of things with them. So this is nothing that I came up with, like invented on my own. People have been doing this for years. I just decided I wanted to take some time and actually put together a blog post on this. And the idea was to use Google Slides for stop motion animation. Now, here's the idea. if you create a Google slideshow and you say, oh, I'm going to, publish this slideshow to the web. So here, we'll come over and we'll just go to Google Drive, and I'll just grab a sample slideshow here. Sorry, I didn't have one queued up. I normally am pretty good about keeping these queued up. I apologize. I did not have one queued up right away here. I'll grab my hipster Google one that I did here recently. I'll just grab that. If I have a Google slideshow and I want to let somebody view this, rather than using the share button, what we normally encourage people to do is to go to File, go to Publish to the Web, and from Publish to the Web, normally it's published. I've got it turned off at the moment. Here, I'll turn it off and back on. We'll turn it off and we'll turn it right back on. Normally, if you go File, Publish to the Web, you can then click this big blue Publish button. And what it does is it gives you this crazy long link that if anybody gets that link, what it will do is it will run the slideshow full screen for that person. So they don't have the little thumbnails down the side. They can just boom, go right into the full slideshow. You can also check the box to say started immediately, and you can check the box that says restarted after the end. And if you do that, basically, that's great for like a parent-teacher conference night. If you want a Google slideshow just running the whole time, it'll get to the end and just restart again, and you don't have to click anything. It just goes on its own, okay? And so let's say I have this slideshow and I went publish to the web and I said started automatically, loop at the end, and I copy this link. If I now go over and paste this link in, basically you're going to see it's going to start playing the slideshow. I don't have to click anything. All on its own, it's just going to start playing through the slideshow. So I'm not clicking it. I'm not doing anything. It's just moving through the slideshow. Okay, so far so good. So that's nothing new. That's how slides works. Well, here's where the fun part gets in. If you look at that crazy long link, if you go into the Publish to the Web link, if you go all the way to the end of that crazy long link, there's some interesting code at the end. And what that code looks like is... There, I had to scroll down a bit. It says delay ms equals 3000. That's actually at the end of that Publish to the Web link. What that says is delay milliseconds equals 3000. It's telling Google Slides how many milliseconds to wait between each slide. Well, in this case, 3000 milliseconds is 3 seconds. Aha. Well, you can change that because that's just a link. That's just what's at the end of the link. You could say, I'm going to make it shorter. And suddenly, if I make it delay ms is 250, then it's basically going to be 1/4 of a second for every slide. So if I come back in and I paste that exact same link in, but if I say, you know what, let's not make it be 3000 milliseconds, let's make it be 250 milliseconds. Now it's going to play the same slideshow, but it's going fast. It is flying through the slideshow because I've told it to do a new slide every 250 milliseconds, basically a quarter of a second. Okay, put all that together, and now's where the fun kicks in. So basically what you do is you use Google Slides to make animations. So what you can do is you can either put pictures together or you can put shapes on the slides, and then you can make little teeny changes from one slide to the next. So it's basically making the illusion that something has moved. And then when you play the slideshow at fast speed by changing that link, it appears to be an animation. So that's what I did. One of them I did with Legos. So basically I took an IPEVO camera. Now you don't have to. Any webcam is fine. I happen to have one of these. They're pretty inexpensive. They're like $69, and it gave me the little arm to move things around with, which was nice. But you could just use the built-in webcam, for your laptop or Chromebook or whatever. And this works perfectly on a Chromebook. You can even plug IPEVO cameras into a Chromebook or any webcam. It's perfectly fine. And what I did was I took a bunch of pictures of Legos and then I moved them a little bit in between, each picture. And I did not take these pictures separately and then later on import them into slides. All I did, I'll just show you real quick from Google Slides, I just went Insert, Image, and I used the Take a Snapshot option. Whoop, got to give it permission here. There we go. Hey, there I am. Hi, everybody. And so I just used the Take a Snapshot option and hit Take a Snapshot. And I won't really do that. I won't throw that into this slideshow. But that's it. I just went Insert, Image, Take a Snapshot, and just I took pictures straight from Google Slides right into my slideshow, and here's what came out. So this first example is I was using this to show, let's say it's a language arts class, and you have a vocab term that you are supposed to be explaining. In this case, the word was identical, and that was the vocab term. And so what I did was a Lego movie where a mad scientist clones himself to, explain identical. So let's give a click on it, and here's the little movie. It's very short, very simple. So this is all just individual slides being played very fast. So there's the little Lego guy moving. I went ahead and threw in some speech bubbles using the Google Slides tools. Yeah, I used the drawing tool to throw in some shapes. And there we go. He's cloned himself and identical. And then it gives the definition of the word. So, and it's just going to keep repeating over and over again because I've got it on loop. But that was fun. I had a fun time doing that, building the Lego stuff and, taking pictures and, throwing them all together in the slideshow and doctoring it up a little bit and having some fun with it. The other example I did doesn't have any photographs in it. This other one I did was like for a math example. It was to show how to find the area of an irregular shape. And so for this one, all I did was I drew rectangles using the shape tool inside of Google Slides, basically just insert shape. And I just went in and I just, you've got all these different shapes here. And I just went in and grabbed the rectangle tool and, drew some rectangles in there. So for this one, it just basically shows how you would solve area of an irregular shape. And again, this is all just individual slides being played back fast speed. So it gives them a little bit of directions here about how you have to find area of an irregular shape. One way to do this is to cut the shape up. This is all just individual slides. My little scissors comes across here and cuts the shape up. Then I separate the two. Well, I find the new length there once I've done that. And then I separate the two pieces. And again, these are just, I'm basically making copies of a slide. I do one slide, I make a copy of it, and I just tweak it a little bit each time. So now I'm finding the area of each shape. So the top rectangle is 58, the bottom rectangle is 180, and now we put them back together, and we get our total of 236. So just a whole bunch of slides. And again, I'm not making every slide individually. I'm creating a slide like this first one you're seeing here, and I'm just duplicating it. In Google Slides, all you have to do is just right-click on a slide and say duplicate, or just copy paste, and it just makes a copy. And I'm just making little teeny changes to the copies, which make it look like, scissors are going across or something like that. So this could be a really neat activity. And again, I'm not saying every student has to make a stop motion animation movie, but think about it as being an option for them. So we've said this many times, say, okay, here's the project, you need to explain your understanding of a concept in class, whatever it might be, photosynthesis is an example that I used in an earlier blog post on that. So you've got to explain your understanding of photosynthesis. Well, that's great. You could say every single student has to do a one-page report on photosynthesis. Well, that's fine, but what you're going to get is 125 reports that basically say the same thing. Or instead you go, okay, guys, you need to explain your understanding of photosynthesis, and here's 10 different ways to do it. You can make a comic strip. You can make an infographic. You can write a report. You can do a video. You could do a stop motion animation. You can do you name it, so many things. The point is, you're going to have some kids that love this. They're going to have so much fun building their clay models or their Lego guys, and they're going to work 3 times as long on this as you would have ever asked them to do. It's a matter of giving students that option to have different ways to express their understanding. And so with no special tools, just Google Slides and your Chromebook, and use the built-in webcam or use a very simple, external cam. This would be a great way for students to do stop motion animation. All right, cool stuff. So that was fun. I had fun doing that one. Let's see. I'll just mention real quick. If you are a language arts teacher, and if you do Cloze, C-L-O-Z, Cloze reading activities, that's where students have to fill in missing words in a document to try to use context clues and figure out what's missing. I did do a blog post on ways to generate Cloze reading activities. I talked about 2 different websites that do this, but for a Google twist on it, I actually made a Google Sheets template that allows you to paste in your text here. I'll just use the text from this web page for it. Yeah, I did a Google Sheets template here. If you go ahead and make a copy of it, basically what it lets you do is paste in the text you want to turn into a Cloze activity. So if I come here for the original text and I paste in what I just copied there, you then, in this top right-hand corner, put in how many words you want it to skip. 10 is in by default, but you could change that to, you know, whatever you want. And then below, it takes the original text and it makes a new version that has blanks in there for every 10th word or whatever you said. And then below there, it gives you what words got removed. So you can now copy and paste this into a Google Doc. You can make an activity for the students where they've got a word bank and then they've got where they're filling it in. So that, again, was just a fun one. Just had a blast using all kinds of crazy Sheets formulas to figure out a way to take the original text, suck out the things every 10th or whatever. Again, you can come in, you can say every 8th word or whatever, and it'll just update it each time depending upon how many you put in there. So you put in the original text, you put in how many words to skip over, and then there you go. There's your Cloze activity. So that was a fun one to create, but if you're a English teacher, you can certainly take advantage of that. Math folks, if you use pattern blocks, maybe more for elementary age students, if you use pattern blocks and you want to go digital with those, I did do a blog post here recently about using Google Drawings for pattern blocks. Those that teach math are probably familiar with these pattern blocks, or these 6 different shapes that fit a very specific layout here. It's a hexagon and a trapezoid and a square and 2 rhombuses and a triangle, and they're great. You can do a lot of fun things with them, but of course they cost money. You got to buy them, and then people can lose them, and maybe you only have so many. And hey, I need another trapezoid, and don't have any more. And again, there's nothing wrong with the physical version. Physical is great. It's wonderful for kids to use their hands. Just though, if you need an option, I went ahead and created a pattern block template in Google Drawings. So you can copy the blank template if you want. It'll just go ahead and make a copy of that. And you've got all the different pattern block shapes here. You can copy and paste them into your drawing. And then after you copy and paste them into your drawing, you can, of course, move them around. You can rotate them 90 degrees or flip them horizontally or vertically, or you can grab the little rotator at the top if you want to free rotate them. In addition to the blank template, I went ahead and just said, here's some possible, here's more directions on how to rotate and flip and all that. But then I said, here's just some possible activities. And so I made templates for these. So there's like lines of symmetry. Have students create something that has a, horizontal line of symmetry or a vertical line of symmetry. Show different ways to make a whole out of fractions. A perimeter activity, another perimeter activity, tessellations, or just creativity. It doesn't have to be math. This could be a math language arts crossover. Have the students create a picture and then write about what it was they created. So if you're looking for some pattern block stuff, please feel free to make a copy of those templates. Those are all freely available for you there. And I think that's most of my new stuff. I think the only other thing we talked about, lit trips, we've got that. The last thing on here, I was fortunate to take part in a online episode of the blended EdTech guys. Sorry, guys. Thomas Roop and Eric Lawson do the blended EdTech guys video series on YouTube, and they were doing a episode on creative uses for slides. They called it Souped Up Slides, and I was honored. They asked me to jump in with them and share some ideas. And so this is the final video they created out of that. So it just covers a lot of creative ways to use Google Slides, including things like stop motion animation, but lots of other neat, fun ways that you can use Google Slides besides just regular presentations. And I've got links down here to their full playlist. They do a lot of really neat creative educational training videos for G Suite. So definitely check those guys out. So that's all of my new stuff. There's a lot of other cool stuff below. I'm just going to pick a couple of these out real quick to kind of highlight for you guys, but I would definitely encourage you to click through all these links. These are things that sometime over the last month, as I've been on Twitter or reading blogs, these jumped out at me. I'm like, oh, that's a really neat idea. So all of these are worth reading, even if we don't have the time to really go into them here today. So a few of these that did catch my eye. I actually like this one quite a lot. There's an article called 5 Google Classroom Tips from a Mom's Perspective. And I really like this one a lot because for most of us, we probably are educators and parents as well. Sometimes we do forget to think about it from a parent's point of view. You know, we know what the tool can do, and we think about it as an educator. Jen Fisher did this great article here about, you know, as a mom, you know, as a dad, as a parent, what are some things that we would appreciate teachers would do? So if you're using Google Classroom, don't forget. And she talks about things that are helpful for parents. That when the mom or dad, when we log in to Classroom with the child's account to try to help them at night with homework, and we say, hey, let's log into Classroom, things like using the topics feature to be able to find stuff more easily. That even if you give a hard copy of something, put a digital one on the stream as well. There's no reason that something should only be paper. You know, it's okay if you're going to send home paper, that's fine, but hey, scan it and throw it in Classroom also, or have a digital version in Classroom, because it happens. I've got 3 boys at home and things get lost. Stuff happens. To know that you can go to Classroom and print out a new copy, oh my gosh, that would be so wonderful. Talks about using Guardian summaries, talks about adding due dates to assignments. She talks about numbering assignments. So there's a lot of really practical ideas that if you're using Classroom, also consider these things when it comes to some best practices with that. I liked that one. I mean, I like all of these. These are all good articles, but I really liked that one a lot. Other things that I liked, talking about creative uses of slides. This one caught my attention, using Google Slides with pictures as a writing prompt journal. This one was pretty slick. So basically the idea is you use Google Slides and you add an image on the slide, and then you add a spot for the student to write. And so as an example here, I'll just go ahead and open up their template. You'll see that in each case, a photograph has been put in there, and of course you can change that. You know, you can go in and easily replace that image, but we've got some samples to get us started here. So basically the student is given a photograph, they're asked to title it, and then asked to write their journal entry based on that. And that you could build a whole list of these. You can make a slideshow with, you know, a dozen or dozens of these pictures in there, and this could be the student's journal writing prompts. So I thought that was a clever way to use Google Slides. I like that one. Other things. This one is a neat add-on for Google Docs called DocuTube. And for this particular one, the idea was if you are using Google Docs, especially for HyperDocs. And for those who aren't familiar with HyperDocs, the idea is it's a Google Doc that has a lot of engaging content in it, links that take you out to websites, videos to watch, different activities to complete. Unfortunately, YouTube videos don't play inside of Google Docs. They jump out to the YouTube site when you go to click a link for a YouTube video. This is an add-on called DocuTube that if you have it installed, what it will do is it will scan down through your Google Doc and find any YouTube links that are in there, and it will open up a big pop-up window that will allow you to play those videos without leaving the doc, going to YouTube, seeing the suggested videos, seeing the ads, seeing the comments. It'll just play the videos from the doc in a pop-up window all by itself. So I thought that was a pretty snazzy add-on. I liked that one. Speaking of hyper stuff, the next thing I want to draw attention to is a blog post on HyperDrawings. Now, I know we've been talking about HyperDocs. HyperDrawings is the exact same idea, but it's using Google Drawings instead of using Google Docs. And this is very recent, but this article talks about using Google Drawings to create a HyperDoc type of activity, and what are some benefits to that? Why might you use a Google Drawing instead of using a Google Doc? And there's a lot of neat things about it as far as being able to use the drawing tools and stuff like that. But what really got my attention, and all of this is great, but what really grabbed my attention in here was something I didn't know you could do. I love learning new things, and that is that Google Drawings, did not realize this, allows you to put playable videos inside of the drawing. I'm like, okay, I knew I could do that in slides because you got to insert video, but I didn't know you could do that in drawings. And what it comes down to is a really clever trick, which is what you do is you start, and actually there's even a separate post. She did two posts here. She did one on the HyperDrawings, but then another one just on the whole idea of putting the videos in Google Drawings. It's actually clever. What you do is you start by making a Google slideshow, you insert the video in Google Slides, and then you copy paste it into Drawings, and it plays. It works. How cool. So let's say I go over to Google Drive, and if I'll just create a drawing real quick, and you'll see that normally you can't just add a video to Google Drawings. If I say, hey, here's a new Google drawing, there's not an option in the insert option here to put a video in. Insert video is not one of the choices there. But if I go and create a Google slideshow, come on, there we go. Make a Google slideshow, and from Google Slides, if I temporarily insert a video, so I'll go insert video, and I'll just run a search for one of my webinars or something like that. So we'll grab, here we go, just grab one of my webinars. I can go ahead and drop that video into Google Slides. That's nothing new. We've always been able to do that, adding videos to Google Slides. That's normal. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy that. So, edit copy or whatever you want to do to copy it, Control-C type of thing. Now that I've copied it, if I go back over to Google Drawings and I paste it, it pastes the video into the drawing, and it actually works. You can double click on the video, and it will actually start playing the video. And there it is, the video is playing. That's so cool. I didn't know you could do that. So basically, you can now take those videos and you can put them in the drawing, or what we were seeing in the article was putting them off to the side. And that's one of the big takeaways from this article is that if you're creating a hyper drawing, here we'll make a copy of this one here so you can kind of see it a little bit bigger. If you're making a hyper drawing, you can take advantage of the space outside of the canvas. Here's the canvas where the student works, but you can put links and things on the outside, including an embedded video that if you double click on it, it'll actually start playing that video and you can watch it. And of course, you can go full screen with the video so that you can see it as well. So I thought that's awesome. What a neat way to take the idea of HyperDocs, but do it in drawings. But the bonus, big bonus there, hey, put videos into your drawings. I think that could really open up a lot of things with drawings. I think so many times I love using drawings, but what a neat way to now add a video off to the side to give directions or to supplement what you're doing in the drawing activity. So really neat idea on that. I like that a lot. All right. And then the last things I have, I always like to make you guys aware of other places to go to get great resources. There is a new G Suite for Education video show. Don't know if I want to call it a podcast, a vodcast, a video show. It's called the Sweet Talk. And there's a link here that'll take you out to the Sweet Talk website. This is done by Kim and Brian. And I've had the pleasure of working with Kim on some trainings in the past. And this is a relatively new show. I think they've got 2 episodes out, I believe. Let me see. Show 1 and show 2. Yes, so 2 episodes. And they're doing basically a lot of things similar to our philosophy here as far as what's new in Google, letting you know some, the most recent things that have come out in Google in the last month, as well as some integration ideas, an app of the week, stuff like that. So just another great resource for you to plug into. Check out the Sweet Talk. And then not real new, we're already up to episode 14. Just always want to remind you of the teacher. I lost my ER, Google Teacher Tribe, the Google Teacher Tribe podcast by Casey Bell and Matt Miller. This is a weekly Google podcast, about 30 minutes or so, and they cover, again, what's new in Google. They usually have a quick interview with somebody and share some neat resources. And these are the 4 they put out during the last month. So I enjoy all of those resources. It's a great way for me also to stay up to date on everything. Well, let's go ahead and scroll back up and see if anything else has been added in. Do we have any other comments or questions? I don't see any in there yet. I'll give you guys just a moment, though, in case anybody has a question or comment that we haven't gotten to. Looks pretty good. So as we do that, as I give you guys just a moment, let me just remind you once again that these monthly Google user group meetings typically are at the tail end of the month. We were usually doing them the 3rd Friday of the month. Chances are it's probably going to wind up being the last Friday of the month going forward. That seems to be fitting better with most people's schedules. But always, always, always check the schedule at google.apps.spark.org/user group, because when you go to that site, you'll always be able to see when the next meeting is coming up. And if things do change, which they do, please check here rather than driving to Spark for the meeting or setting aside time to participate. Make sure that you've checked the date and time there. Our next scheduled meeting is May 26th, so about a month from now. And when summertime comes, that's always kind of up in the air. We'll just have to kind of check and see what makes the most sense during the summer. But definitely during the school year, we do run these every week. As always, I would encourage you, if you have resources you'd like to share, please do throw them into the doc. We'll be creating a doc for May soon, so you can start adding to that one as well. And if you would like to join me in the Hangout rather than just typing in the document, just drop me an email sometime, prior to the Hangout and say, hey, I'd love to jump on and share a neat thing we're doing in our school, and I'll be more than happy to pull you into the Hangout. Just let me know. Other than that, please be sure you did sign in. There is under the important links a sign-in form that just lets me be able to report the numbers to Google as to how many people took part in the training or in the meeting, as well as send you a certificate of attendance. And as we mentioned before, please do feel free to plug into our user group communities, the Spark group and the GEG Ohio group. Definitely, if you can plug into any of the upcoming trainings and conferences, love to see you at those. So last scroll through, I do not think we see any more questions or comments. All right. So thank you guys so very much for taking some time out of your Friday. If you're watching this recorded in the future, thanks for taking time out of whatever day it might happen to be for you. But we appreciate you guys being with us here today and look forward to connecting with you at upcoming trainings. And if not, then we'll see you next month, the next Google User Group meeting. Thanks so much. Take care.